Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan previously accused the Russian peace forces of failing to perform their duties. According to the 2020 agreement between the nations, they should ensure the security of the Lachen corridor. The request submitted by Armenia to the ICC at the end of December last year stated that Azerbaijan organized a blockade of the only road connecting 120,000 ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh with the rest of the world, thus preventing them from entering and leaving the region, and asked to indicate provisional measures regarding the blockade of the corridor. Two wars were fought between Armenia and Azerbaijan for control of Nagorno-Karabakh, which claimed tens of thousands of victims.
And now let's take a look at the issue in greater detail. Armenia was defeated in the war with Azerbaijan in autumn 2020, when Armenian troops had to leave all the territories of Azerbaijan they occupied since the First Karabakh War. Karabakh itself is where Russian troops were introduced as a so-called peacekeeping force. This brought about the beginning of a revision of Armenia's foreign policy, based until then on an alliance with Russia. For a while, Armenia was quite unfavorably regarded as Russia's aircraft carrier in the South Caucasus. Now, however, the tides are shifting between previously close allies. On the 23rd of November, Armenia refused to sign both the final communique of the Collective Security Treaty Organization summit it hosted in Yerevan and the decision on assistance to Armenia over the Karabakh conflict. They claim a lack of assistance on the side of Moscow, especially as Russian troops are still stationed on Armenian territory. Some hope the new year would bring a breakthrough, and let's see how that went. In January 2023, Russia made a demand to Azerbaijan to remove demonstrators blocking the transit road between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, running along the so-called Lachen corridor. Azerbaijan refused to comply with the demand. Yeah, that's about it in terms of help from Moscow. Moscow's inaction is destroying the last vestiges of its allies' credibility in Armenia. The Armenian Prime Minister declared his readiness to reach peace with Azerbaijan by the end of this year. Here's to the hope the situation is resolved soon. And now here to shed more light on the issue is Dr. Konrad Zestroft from the Faculty of Islam at the Warsaw University. Hello, sir. Welcome to Eastern Express.
Hello.
So, regarding Azerbaijan's decision to step back on demands on Zangezur corridor, what do you think led to this change in position, and what implications do you think it have for the regional stability?
Well, you mean the Zangezur corridor, because we have two corridors in the region. We have to explain it. The so-called Lachen corridor, which is linking Armenia with the territory of the unrecognized Armenian Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. And the Zangezur corridor is the project or plan to open the communications between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, which is a region of Azerbaijan, but without connection to Azerbaijan, because in between there is Armenian territory. So this is about discussion between Azerbaijan and Armenia to open the Zangezur corridor to Armenia, to let Armenia agree for this communication there. And another discussion is about the Lachen, so-called Lachen corridor, so the road between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, which already exists, but since December it's blocked by the Azerbaijani activists protesting against the policies of this unrecognized Armenian Republic regarding the ecological issues. But obviously this is also, or first of all, tool of Azerbaijan to push Armenia to agree for the other corridors. So I mean the Zangezur corridor.
Right, and some analysts have suggested that the recent escalation of tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan could be linked to larger geopolitical factors like Russia's involvement in the region. What's your view on this, and do you think that it might impact the prospect for peace in the region?
Well, yes, of course. So this is the moment. I mean, since the beginning of Russian full-scale invasion in Ukraine, when Russia is preoccupied with war in Ukraine. So now Azerbaijan is able to push for its goals in Nagorno-Karabakh, because Russia is no longer able to meddle in those affairs of South Caucasus, of Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenia, Azerbaijan. So now this is the window of opportunity for Azerbaijan to gain everything what they want in this Nagorno-Karabakh issue without Russians making any problems here.
Right. And well, now we know the broader impact and geopolitically, I want to go back to the corridors that we were talking about earlier. And because the UN International Court of Justice has only recently ruled that the Azerbaijan must unblock the Lachin corridor that connects Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia. How do you see this decision impacting the ongoing conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan? What steps do you think should be taken to ensure that there's a compliance with the ruling?
Well, actually, there are, I would say, two aspects of the, or two dimensions of this Nagorno-Karabakh problem. So one dimension is a diplomatic dimension, so attempts of both sides to find a way to an agreement, peace agreement, and obviously as Armenia sees it differently, this peace agreement, than Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan differently than Armenia. And the other dimension is what is going on the ground there in Nagorno-Karabakh and surroundings of Nagorno-Karabakh, so the Lachin corridor. So as I said, the Azerbaijan is blocking since December the road, but using not soldiers, not police, but using those civil society activists. So this is a kind of not overt attempt to block Nagorno-Karabakh, and moreover, it's not a full blockade. So some cars are stopped, other cars with humanitarian aid are allowed to enter Nagorno-Karabakh. But of course, the situation is becoming worse and worse for the inhabitants of Nagorno-Karabakh, and we don't know what Azerbaijan actually plans as a solution for this Armenian population. And this is the biggest question asked by Armenia: how you will guarantee safety and normal life for those people Armenian people in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Right, and like you mentioned earlier, the Nagorno-Karabakh region is facing a lot of issues and kind of interesting conflicts. Now, in the context, there's like recent talks between the U.S. Secretary of State and the foreign ministers of both Azerbaijan and Armenia. Do you think there's a chance that they could come to a sort of a peace agreement? And what do you think are the challenges that's facing the efforts into their peace talks?
Yeah, so there is a chance, and obviously the United States, the European Union play a positive role here, trying to find a way for this, to facilitate this agreement. And I think both sides are also interested in the agreement, because eventually this opening of communications in the region, it will help everyone, not only both Armenia, Azerbaijan, but also other neighboring countries. It will have a very positive impact on economy. But obviously, there are hawks in both capitals, in Baku and in Yerevan. On the side of Baku is playing this policy of stick and carrot, so offering something, but also using a huge stick to threaten Armenia. On the side of Armenia, we have Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who is very much interested in solving this issue, peaceful solution of this issue, but he has also opposition, which is very much interested in going back to the military way of solution of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is at this moment absurd, because Armenia is much more weaker militarily than Azerbaijan. So for Nikol Pashinyan, it's a very difficult situation, but still I think he's determined to find a common language with Baku.
Right. Isn't there territorial claims that are competing between the two countries in the Nagorno-Karabakh region? And what do you think will be able to kind of smooth over this kind of conflict between the territorial claims?
Well, this is a very difficult solution. So since 1992, all the diplomats are thinking in many countries of the world how to solve this issue. But now what we have now, the picture is that Azerbaijan is militarily dominant in the region. But Azerbaijan has also a problem with finding or having a plan for the positive plan for the Armenian community in Nagorno-Karabakh, and I think this is what now Yerevan demands from Baku, is to listen, to hear this, to have any knowledge about this plan, what will happen with the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, and we still wait for some proposals from Baku. We don't hear them.
Yeah. You mentioned something about the international community also kind of having this headache about the region. And what do you think the international community, maybe outside forces, can do to facilitate sort of a peace talk to happen?
Well, this is again very difficult, because if we speak about foreign forces in the region, these are only Russian forces, so-called Russian peacekeepers. Those peacekeepers are not fully recognized by Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan says there's no agreement for their presence in the region from the side of Azerbaijan. Also, although initially Azerbaijan agreed for the Russians in Nagorno-Karabakh as peacekeepers at the end of the war in November 2020, but now Azerbaijan says that the Russians have to leave the region. Now, of course, there are talks about some presence of some other peacekeepers from the European countries, maybe, but Azerbaijan is totally against any foreign peacekeepers. So obviously, the Russians are probably the less welcome peacekeepers in the region, but they don't want also any other peacekeepers. Obviously, for Armenia, it would be good solution, but there will be tough discussion and a tough discussion on this issue between Yerevan and Baku.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the input and insight. Thanks again for being with us on TVV World. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're moving on to the Eastern News Flash, a series of all the latest stories from the East that you don't want to miss. According to Finnish President Sauli Niinisto, Finland and Sweden are moving hand in hand towards NATO accession, but the decision to ratify the applications for both Nordic countries rests with Turkey.
Sweden and Finland applied to join the Defence Pact last year in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but Sweden's bid was met with unexpected opposition from Turkey. Ankara has accused Stockholm of harbouring what the former considers to be members of terrorist groups and has demanded their extradition as a precondition for giving Sweden the green light to join NATO. Should the parliaments of all 30 NATO member states ratify the proposal, Finland will join as member regardless whether Sweden's accession is delayed, the Finnish president said, despite the country's ambitions of a joint move.
The International Federation of Journalists, a global organization representing over 600,000 media professionals worldwide, has suspended the Russian unions of journalists from its ranks.
The decision was a response to the Russian Union's recent expansion into Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine, in direct violation of the organization's principles. The Federation president noted that the organization will try to find ways of supporting independent Russian journalists both inside and outside the country. The announcement comes weeks after Finnish, Norwegian, Danish and Icelandic journalists' unions have decided to leave the international body, citing its perceived inaction towards the Russian Union's activities in occupied Ukraine.
The Minsk regime is constantly working to circumvent Western sanctions, the Lithuanian Ministry of Transport and Communications reported after investigative journalists revealed a possible scheme to evade EU sanctions against Belarusian fertilizer producers.
The annual volume of rail freight from Belarus, which before the war totaled some 17 million tons, fell to less than 4 million tons